Good morning, Canada. Oh, good evening. Here we are. We finally got the time right.
Yeah.
I suppose it's probably no one watching would probably actually realize what happened yesterday, but we had a little bit of a hiccup because we are on different days. When we are talking about night in Canada, it's morning in Australia. And so obviously we were both logging on the right date, or I was logging on the right date, but the wrong time. So yeah, but here we are. Salem, it's great to see you.
Great to see you, Stefan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it is a pleasure. We just started out listening to We Gotta Change. Powerful video.
Thank you.
Tell us a bit about that song.
Ooh, okay. We Gotta Change is the first single from our second album called No One Knows. It is a song I wrote about the state of the world, and it seems like things haven't changed since. Yeah, that's about all I can say. I mean, that's a recurring theme for me as a writer.
Yep.
The fact that we need to slow down and listen and check those symbols, because we're all just symbols of things burned into our brains, to quote my own lyrics. Yeah. So we filmed that video here at the Aviation Museum, here in Edmonton, where the band is based. It was, I think by the time we were done, it might have been a 30 or 36 hour video shoot, nonstop. Wow. Yeah. Great director, a local actor director, Rob McEwen directed it. And one thing you always need to do, like I also work as a performance coach, so everybody, get out a pen and paper, do your performance work first, right? Your actual live performance work, right? That's what we filmed at the end. And we have stills of Todd Purdy, our drummer, actually asleep on his snare between takes, right? People just, right, cut, go, So yeah, it was a wild one. I ended up getting a repetitive strain injury on my right knee from it because I was dancing on concrete for basically all those hours. So It was great fun. That was a really, really good time. Unfortunately, Anna couldn't be with us, but it was still it was a great time. And the tune is an odd tune for us. We've got somebody is somewhere. It's actually streaming in a lot of countries in the world, but sometimes 30, 40, 20, 50 times a day. So all we can figure is that gamers are using it. I don't know what the deal is on it, but hey, we like it, so why not them?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like as you said yourself, like it's a great production. You can see you got so many different scenes. Like you're in an airplane, you have this big wide shoot of the band and stuff. So yeah, you can see you really put some time and effort into it.
Yeah, that was an interesting. The airplane had a weird vibe. It had flown over France on D-Day.
Oh, okay.
During World War II, right? And it was pretty strange in there. Pretty busy in there.
Excellent. And this was from your second album, you said.
Mm-hmm.
Should we try just to try and get a little bit of time frame in mind? Do you mind taking us back to the start of where how did One Soul Thrust come about?
Okay. Jag and I were in a project called Jones, and we'd released, I think, 4 albums with Jones. We started working with Todd. He'd just been working with us a short amount of time, and for me, I'm the founder, the creative thrust, the writer. So the way I put it is the whispers talk to me, and they told me it's got to be something new. It's got to be something new, right? So I said to the guys, okay, it's got to be something new. No. Jones has already got a few fans and blah, blah, blah. But I was walking down the hallway of the studio one day, and I heard the voice loud and clear. It said One Soul Thrust. And I stopped, and I went, okay, that's what it is. So I said, guys, whether you like it or not, this is what it is. Are you with me? Oh, yeah, we're with you. Right? So that was that 2008, 2009?
Yep.
Yeah. And that was it. And next thing we knew, we were prepping for the first album. I don't know. Do you want me to go into that, or do you want to jump in with some specific questions? Because
sure. I was about to say, like imagine, because obviously I haven't heard of you guys until about 2 weeks ago or something. So I'm actually curious to get your story, and I'm sure a lot of people that would listen back to this as well probably would like to basically, if you were to tell this to someone who didn't know about the band, for you to sort of tell your story. I would love to hear about, like your working process, how you started up, how you wrote the songs, how you got them out, you recorded the first album. There's definitely a couple of questions about the first album that I'd love to ask when we get to that. But yeah, basically just try and run through how the band, how the band developed organically. Because obviously you said like you and Jack, which is your husband, is
yep. Our guitarist, recording engineer, resident tech genius, and definitely.
Fantastic, yeah. So so the songs come about. Are you the main songwriter, and you take them to the band, and you take them apart, or how does that work?
Yes, I am the main songwriter.
Yep.
It's probably technically, in business terms, I'm the only songwriter in the band, but some things come together when we're together. So a song like We Gotta Change, I wrote it top to bottom, music, lyrics, everything.
Wow.
I'm a lyricist. I've been a lyricist my whole life. And I have always been the writer in the bands that I was in. I mean, eventually I got to the point where I was the founder of the bands, again, the creative thrust. So what really works very well for One Soul Thrust is each album seems to have a combination of, there'll be one, maybe two songs that I write cradle to grave myself, music and lyrics, and then we'll be jamming in rehearsal, and Jag will just start playing a guitar riff, and I have a pretty good ear for a hook. It gets better as I get older, I'm happy to say. And I just say, look, lay that down. So we're recording when we want to record during rehearsal. So we record a riff. Some days it's, 2 or 3 riffs, right? And I just know them when I hear them. So I send them to me. I log those. And then when I'm going into a writing phase, I'll check those out. And, you need to give a little space. In fact, sometimes a lot of space between those things, because you can be just caught up in the moment, right? So you need to objectively look at a riff to see if it's any good. I'll check them out. If something moves me, as I say, if the whispers are there, and of course I've got lyrics. I mean, lyrics are just coming out of me. I sleep with pen and paper because I will write in my sleep. Yep. I mean, I've written in our last project, Jones, I wrote a whole song top to bottom called Whisper in my sleep. So I get up and I'm, I don't know what that says. So I'll get the riff, and it's usually a couple of bars, and then I write an entire song around that riff. So that just seems to be my gift. I can take a note or a word and I can write a song. So I'll take it. If it's a super hook riff, it goes in the chorus, and then I'm writing the verses and the bridge, and then arranging. I will consider it a co-write if we're all in the rehearsal studio together, because Todd lends a lot of energy to what we do. He's just the perfect drummer that way. He's a great drummer, and just, so present for the music, right? So I know that if we can jam that together, then it's probably good. Now, there's a couple songs. I think the first single from our third album, Whole Division, Trust the Process, Perfect Scream's the name of the song. Jag jammed that day, and most of it came out. There's a lot. There's, the riffs for the verses, the riffs for the choruses. I added the bridge to that, I think. And then tweaked it and did the chord changes and so on. So on occasion that happens as well. Another tune on that album called Sweet Beast, one of my favorites from that album, also happened that way. But overall, it's and I go, oh, okay, there's a song. And next thing you know, it's a song, right?
Yeah.
Then we play with it. We get in there, and they have to gel. They all have their own time frame. They're like children or plants. You gotta let them grow up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and everybody's sort of, I'm assuming, everybody got to have their way of sort of contributing their part. So, like, for instance, like, if they're like, or unless, like, do you vision the drum part as well, or do you sort of just leave it up to the drummer?
I really like to work with the energy and the ideas of the people around me.
Yeah.
But as an arranger, sometimes I hear that, so I will put that out there. Overall, I just really like to see what somebody else has to come up with. And Todd is very easy to work with in that way, and will, tell me what you want me to play. He'll easily do that, right? I mean, that's, for an arranger, for a songwriter, that's a dream come true, because
fantastic.
You don't have to try and say, look, this is how the song goes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then, it's like a lot of things. It's like love. A lot of times people don't know what love is, but we sure know what it isn't. So we'll be working with some parts, and it's just not, the whispers aren't liking that. And then, so we won't know what it is, but we know it's not that. And then we play with it. And also Jag was a drummer when he was a kid too. So I like to, so between Jag and I, if Todd doesn't have it, Jag and I can come up with something. And if I don't have hell of an idea, Jag probably will.
Yeah, yeah. It's really good to hear, because quite a few of the other people that I've spoken to over the last couple of weeks, when we're talking about sort of putting a band together and talking about the whole working process, it's so important that everybody is on the same page, because you see, especially as you mentioned the same, as you get older, like your ears change, you get a little bit more like musically mature as well. But when you're too young, sometimes, there's too much ego. Everybody wants to do something. They want to be everywhere and stuff. And I'm 100%, I'm the same myself as well. As I got older, like you start to listen to more music, you get more influences and more inspirations to sort of bring into it. In regards to sort of your musical influences, where would you sort of say that you've gotten them from? Because obviously I've got your press kit that you sent to me, and you said that you've been performing since you were 4. So you must have accumulated a lot of influences over the last decades.
Yeah, well, like everybody, your first influences are your parents. The same with me. I was performing for my babysitters when I was a tiny child. Like, they would call their friends and say, "You got to see this kid, man. She's just doing stuff here." But I would say, the music my parents listened to, really old rock and old rock and roll. A lot of it blues influenced. Artists like Johnny Rivers, Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Yep.
Elvis. My parents loved Elvis. I mean,
everybody. I think everybody loves Elvis. So.
Elvis is never going to die. He did, he's immortal.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, my parents and my grandparents were all musicians as well. And so there was a family band around me as I was growing up that I eventually ended up playing in. So many generations would be playing in that band.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how I kept my teeth. So I started playing semi-pro when I was 16. I think about 14, I used to sit in with the band a bit. I started to study piano when I was 4. My aunt was a piano teacher, and then I eventually studied classical piano, Royal Conservatory, which I couldn't do a thing right now. Some of the things I played for my recitals, if I think back in that, I mean, it's impossible. I'm like, a keyboard is an arranging instrument for me now. And it's so, but back then, that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just, there's always been an element of blues, and then when I started to explore music myself, then the early rock music, like the real rock music, when rock was still rock and not some formula thing that's derivative, and all that, that was there for me, and then also Middle Eastern music, always for me.
Wow, interesting. Mm-hmm. What is it? What is it about the Middle Eastern music that you that you sort of resonated with?
They have way more tones than we do. Like, we've got a 12-tone scale we work with, right? Well, I live between the tones.
Right.
That's why I'm a blues.
From a vocal perspective.
And from any instrument, like those tones that we had one fan back years ago was like, I can't listen to a sitar, man. It makes me dizzy. It's those tones that are in between. So they function. Middle Eastern and Indian music seems to function differently than ours. I've never studied any of it. I've danced to it. I was when I was a teenager, I was a trained classical Egyptian dancer.
Oh wow!
But yeah, it's just. I also think they're connecting to something that we've lost here.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely, it's a very different sort of musical tradition. I think that's also one of the beautiful things about music in general. Like, you all have sort of you have the same tones or the same notes to work with, but they can sound completely different in a different part of the world. And songwriting, feel, expression, and all that. But that again, like it's a universal language, which is just it makes it so interesting. But it's funny you say that though, that's something that you've drawn inspiration from as well, because you don't hear many artists sort of reference to Middle Eastern music, especially if you are playing or Eastern music. If you are playing like power rock, like what you guys are doing in One Soul Thrust.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you listen to? Did you have a question?
No, I was about to say if that was something that you were gonna try and bring into to the actual recording as well. So are you doing any of that sort of trying to connect the two genres? Something you've been experimenting
on the new album, our fourth album, Slaves to the Sky, Masters to the Mass. No, that is very very bluesy, if anything, and funky. It's got a bit of funk. I think I sent you a couple pieces from it.
Yeah. We'll be finishing off on the first single.
Oh, we will. And which one is that?
That's the one you wrote during the pandemic, or the one you released.
Right.
Yeah.
We released the pandemic. No, it was written in 2018, actually. So it's entirely possible. One of the things in working with vocal technique and continuing to work with Western musicians, Western producers have a particular ear, right? So they're not going to want to hear you. I hear a singer flat or sharp past a certain point, right? Even if, because for me, like I'm kind of like probably one of my favorite singers in the world is Lisa Fisher, and she talks about how you just flow until you get to the note, and that's very much how I like to sing, right? So I expect I will be vocally going back more so to my own personal style. Like that's one of the things that happened with this album.
Yeah.
It's, like the first song I wrote for is a song called Black Frank, and funky tune. Jag's playing this cool sparse funk riff, and I just went, Black Frank! And then I started to massage my lips, which is how I sing. I massage the lyrics, and I mean, that's a singer's job. You got to work with that, and you need forget about technique. I think Judy Rodman might have told you that.
I was just about to say, Judy, who actually introduced us, she mentioned that as well on the chat I had with her as well.
Yeah, you got to hit the heart. It really doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. Of course, when you're putting something down on record, you don't want to, you don't want to hurt anybody.
No, but again,
metal. Then go ahead, right?
Yeah. But yeah, she was also talking about the importance of looking after your voice. So it's probably more. It's probably more important that it's a technique that works for you. So so you don't ruin your voice or strain it or put too much pressure on it.
Absolutely, yeah. You have to learn how to do that. It's difficult for a lot of rock singers, especially if they're screamers or they want to be screamers, right? I mean, that's a question I'll get asked a lot. I will teach voice to people who are singing rock and seeking a professional career, but I just send people to Judy, right? What I am is aside from being an artist, is I will be a performance coach, and of course that does take in some of that. But that's a question I get a lot. How can I sing like that? How can I scream like this? Well, you got to do that very lightly.
Yeah, practice.
Very carefully. Yeah, you're going to learn how to do that right, or one day you won't ever be able to do that again. That's the end.
Look, I'd like to try and go back to the first album again, because I think a story that I've been very curious about is you recording with Glenn Hughes.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did that come about? How did you get that opportunity?
Okay, our producer, Alessandro De Vecchio, had worked with Glenn before.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and one of the things Glenn was doing while he was working in Europe back then was he would do vocal seminars. Now, Glenn is known as the voice of rock. I mean, there's a real handful of rock singers that you need to really let into your heart and get familiar with, because they're the ones worth studying. Glenn's one of them, Paul Rogers, Ann Wilson, of the original rock singers. And so we thought about doing a vocal seminar, oddly enough. I mean, because I'm like, yeah, I just want to sit in front row and learn, right?
Yeah.
And that just, to make a long story short, that just wasn't going anywhere. And Alessandro said, you and Glenn got to sing together. You got to sing a duet. And I'm like, I remember getting the text from him about this. I was in Jasper in the Canadian Rockies, right? And it's like, yeah, Glenn's in, and we're going to do it. And I said, dang it. I put my head between my knees, and I'm like, breathe. So yeah. So we set it up. Glenn loved the song. He loved my voice. He loved my writing. It just, Alec came in, we laid down the demo for it. We picked Glenn up one day. He came down, he sang his parts. We did what you do. You hang, we heard so many stories. It was before his book came out. So we heard some of that firsthand stories about him and Richie Blackmore and, those days in Deep Purple and Jakarta. And then, it was just a brilliant experience for everybody. Even Glenn, it was a peaceful experience. We're clean. So Glenn has a background of addictions, and, there's no alcohol or drugs around, because that's just not how one still thrust rolls, right? So, yeah, it was just a super great experience. And then the song went on to be played in, I don't know, a lot of, I think it's over 35 countries around the world. And so
wow.
It was well received. Yeah, it still is. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was actually going to be my next question. Like, if having him as a guest vocalist, if that was something that helped you get a little bit of a boost, especially on the first album.
Well, yeah, it did. Like, at that point, we were, brand new, right? And Glenn was very well known, and there ended up being some controversy afterwards about whether or not the album had been illegally downloaded so many times. It was around the time where Metallica was in the soup for complaining about illegal downloads. Okay. We had a manager and a publicist who put out. We told him, hey, go ahead, do a press release, and people went nuts and blah blah blah. So, but for us, we believe that it likely did sell as many copies as it appears to have sold because Glenn was on it.
Great. Now look, yeah, it's a great story. Great story. So that was through you said that was through your producer. Mm-hmm. And from what I could read, like you've kept working with him. Is that right? Like he's been in the loop since.
Yeah, Elliot has like that first experience with the first album was you don't get experiences like that recording. Probably you aren't going to get one, and if you get one, you're never going to repeat it again. It was just really just the stars aligned, and everyone was just in a very uplifted place.
Yeah.
And we came out of it very, very close. I mean, we that year we went and spent Christmas in Italy with Ali and his family.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So we just kind of we recognized him as a soul brother. And so, yes, he most definitely did the second album. And then, of course, true rock and roll fashion, all sorts of shenanigans happened with regard to that one. We had to take a couple stabs at it. Yeah. Those are like Spinal Tap stories, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to hear some of them. If you got some good stories, that's.
Well, we got hit up with a Canadian con artist, for a large concert here, and as con artists do, they find out in a situation who's got the connections, and they work them. So we had the connections to Ally, which meant we had the connections to Deep Purple, and Ally was working a lot with Bernie Marsden from Whitesnake at the time. So anyway, so this show was supposed to go on at Commonwealth Stadium here, and anyway, this woman was just, the local. Actually, I don't even think it was local. It might have been a national news story was done on her for all the cons she had done in her life and the time she'd spent in prison.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so, meanwhile, she had booked a lot of these bands. Ally had gone ahead and booked Bernie Marsden, and it was just ridiculous. We all woke up and realized, well, something's not right here. Like, all the pros that were involved started to back away from this event because we started to, something doesn't feel right. And she was sending Ally messages. It's great, these emails. Oh my God, I can't send you money because I'm in a thunderstorm right now. I'm typing to you by candlelight. Right? Shit like that.
Far out.
Oh yeah, it was great, right? And so, and then, as I said, we had to take 2 stabs at that album. The first stab just fell apart, and then we went to the mountains. Ally rents a Harley, and we drive up, and we just go to the mountains pretty much every time we record an album. Then we had to take the second stab, and he's just like, I want to meet her. I want to talk to her. I want her to feel the Italian thunder. But of course, she's in jail by then.
Wow.
Oh man, and there's much more to that telling, but between you and I'll have to talk privately.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. Like, I mean, you obviously, like, you do hear about copycats and con artists from time to time, but it's like very, very rarely you actually get the full story, and you hear about that they go to prison and all that. That's crazy.
Well, those people are master manipulators. Like, their psychology is wow. If I were a psychologist, I'd want to study somebody like that. How they can go into a group and they actually start to they divide and conquer. They pit people against each other, and I mean all the other projects that were involved. We're getting mad at whoever she wanted them to get mad at. Most of them us, and so just spreading. It's just lies and obfuscation all the time, right? And that's how they just keep 10 steps ahead of everybody. Months later, I got a phone call from a well-known newscaster here, and I wasn't even sure I believed it was him at this point. We were, and I wouldn't say anything to him. I said, I'm not going to talk to you on the phone. I'll have to meet you in person. I don't know who you are, and I don't know if you're recording this.
Yeah.
So anyway, so Ally did, and we did finally get that second album out, and then of course he did the third album as well. Full Division, Trust the Process. That was we released that in 2 separate sections. We released that one digital only, because money was just getting ridiculous. As time goes on, and people are just used to just downloading music but not paying for it, or now people stream it, and you probably know that songwriter, like, we get on a stream, we'll get 0.002 cents.
You need.
So you need millions of streams to actually. You can't even yet make a living, right? So I mean, I keep saying to people, stop streaming, please download the thing, would you? But as it is a monolith.
It is, and again, I think something I've heard from a lot of the other guests as well is like how do you make money as an original artist these days? Because again, unless you are on a big major label, and even sometimes even if you are on a major label, you still don't make any money because the label grabs everything. But how do you guys make a living? You mentioned you were a performance coach, and I think you said you were a lyric consultant as well on the side. But can you guys make some sort of income? And have you been able to make a sustainable income at some point during your over 10-year career of playing in the band?
Not with One Soul Thrust. The industry crashed in the 90s, right, with the advent of the internet, right? Yeah. So, the internet. Well, the world is a playground for ignorance, and the internet is the big carousel in the middle, right? So. The first thing, when the torrents started to happen, the pirates started to come in, and they're making lots of money off of it. And that's what happened to our first album. It was just lost to us, where it should have been a financially viable album for us, and launch One Soul Thrust career. I mean, we'd already had long careers prior to that. No, it's not sustainable for us. I don't know what it's like in Australia. Live gigs here dried up too. It started about 20 years ago. Well, it actually started in the 80s in SoCal, and they've managed to put the lid on it, but it's still rampant up here, and that's pay to play. So
really,
yeah. So you have to, pay the club money to stand on their postage stamp size stage, which I cannot do a show unless I have a private stage. Yeah, you got to pay to play. So live work has dried up. Okay, so you're in a position where, like we are, complete. We promote ourselves. We do everything ourselves. And Jag and Todd now have day gigs as well. And I have I'm an artist. I can't do anything else. Like I carve ritual candles and create certificates and do all this stuff over here.
Yeah.
But I'm just, I'm an artist, as I say. So we do not know too many people here who are sustaining incomes the way they used to. Judy can probably give you more of the stats down there, but when internet piracy first went big, it stomped on Nashville, like 50% less professional musicians working there. I mean, these are Nashville cats, guys who grew up, and their mama and their daddies and their granddaddies and their grandmamas were professional musicians, so it's happening everywhere. The suicide rate in musicians went way up, it just went nuts. So just try and survive. And some people are out there just, they tap into something that's already successful, right? Yeah. And then they regurgitate that, right? Or they teach. I know a lot of people who are teaching. Again, I'll consult. I love performance coaching because performance is just as natural to me as breathing. And they just find different ways. And the good thing about that is it separates those of us who are meant to be doing it and those of us who aren't.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people come to this, as you said earlier, from heavy ego, right?
Yeah.
An extreme ego desire for significance. And until you lose that, you're never going to get any good at what you do.
No, that's right. That's exactly what broke up my old band. Like I said, we not that I want to talk about me, but just to give you the insight about it. Like about 15, 16 years ago, my old band, like we were signed to EMI Virgin back in Europe, and we're like everything was going well and stuff, but we were simply too young. We were too young. We thought we were too big, and you cannot carry that across. Like, look, we made a good album. We had some great experience, played some big festivals and stuff. But the ego was bigger than our career. And obviously now you're older. I'm married. I've got 3 little boys and stuff. So your values in life change significantly. And now everything else is. There's a lot of other stuff that's less important. So you start to appreciate, especially the music, you start to appreciate those opportunities a lot more, and without the ego.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What was the name of the band?
What's that?
What was the name of your band then?
So my name, the name of the band was Stormed. I think I actually have the old CD lying around here. Okay. It was a bit of it was like hard rock, new metal kind of thing. So it was like we boomed at the same time as bands like Linkin Park and Korn and Limp Bizkit and stuff like that. So back in the early 2000s. But look, it was great. Like it was a good ride and some great memories. But it just wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant to take it further. That was also which again is another crazy thing, which just leads me back to some of the stuff I'd love to hear from you about. Back then, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have Instagram. There was nothing like social media. You had the internet, so you could email people. But see, obviously, if you guys started about 10 years ago, you would have had in the sort of infant stages of all the social media platforms. How do you guys utilize them moving forward? Because you obviously have your social, like you have your Facebook group. which I would love to hear about how you came up with that.
Well, what we are basically is a secret rock society, Stefan.
Yeah.
And we play only for people who are truly committed to the music and who truly dig our music. We play small private shows. We just pulled everything right back, right? Especially after all the cyber attacks and so on, after the between the first and second album, and we just went, we're just here for our people. So whoever our people are, we're here, calm down, right? And everybody else, fuck off.
That's it. 2 words.
Like, yeah. We don't suffer fools gladly. Like, it's just not about us. It's not about the delivery system, the configuration, the bottom line. It's about the music. It really is that. And, that's been part of our personal journeys too, right? Because, of course, like when you start out when you're young and you're a kid, you know that this is your path, right? Obviously, it's your path. It's mine. As I say, it separates those of us who are really supposed to be on the path from others, right?
Yeah.
And, nothing wrong with people playing around with what they want to do and having music as a hobby. That's not what I'm saying. But in the beginning, we all think, yeah, I'll send you a plane ticket. I'm going to be rich and famous and all that, right? Because you're 14.
Yeah.
Right? Or actually, I think I was 13 when I put my first band together. It was an all-female band called Eve. Wow.
Nice.
Original. And yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I always knew. I knew I would walk this path from as early as I could remember. So, but then you work through that, right? And you grow up, as you say, and in fact you have to, or you're not going to weather the storms. And let's say some of the storms will help you grow up, because or
they'll shape you.
They'll shape you, right? And when you dig in and go, okay, what's this really about? So for us, we don't have an open Facebook page. No, we have a private group. Anybody can join as long as they're into the tunes, right? And those are the people that hear about what we're doing first, after our patrons. Like, we do have a Patreon page.
Yeah.
And so anybody who becomes our patron, they get everything first. They get first access. They get things that other people don't get. The typical patron situation. And it's really interesting, because back, if you recall, prior to One Soul Thrust, we had another project, and I can remember at the beginning of that project getting ready to do the first album and trying to raise funds for it. And that was before any social media and the internet. And I actually, because I was classically trained and I knew the history of the classical composers, I thought about those times and the fact that artists had benefactors. They had patrons.
Yeah.
And I hand wrote letters to people saying, here's what we're offering. And people thought that was just the most novel thing. So money poured in for the first album. Everybody who donated got their name on the first album. I remember a local radio playing this and going, holy man, she really thanked, they thanked everybody on this. But that was before anybody had the idea, right? And before it became platforms.
Fantastic. So that was basically like crowdfunded.
Yeah, I crowdfunded on my own before I knew what it was.
That's awesome. So are you not that we need to put any amount on it, but so have you got a decent Patreon base that would allow you to sort of keep recording new albums moving forward?
I feel our base is exactly what it needs to be right now. It is small, though. We enacted our Patreon page just a year ago. Okay. And yeah. So, and we have, like, people can join and can become $2 a month patrons. We looked at the economy and we went, honestly, sometimes people are having trouble putting food on the table, right? Yeah. So we need to allow them something that's simple to do. I mean, $2 a month, that's $24 a year, right? That's just base. There's they get some posts before other people, but then we have 5 and 10 and 25. Yeah. So we keep it really simple and really basic, and we still need to grow it. We really do, to keep doing what we do. But it certainly has helped us. It helped us with this album. We have some patrons who, as a lot of people don't like to have monthly things coming off their credit cards. So we had people, hey, I just want to give you a lump sum of money. And now Patreon has actually started to allow that. Before they wouldn't allow that, but now people can just hop on there and give you money once if they want.
Yeah.
So, and that'll be easier because then we were keeping track of people who were not on Patreon, because it's hard to keep track of everything, because these people, we have deep reverence and immense respect and incredible gratitude for these people.
Oh, absolutely, because they are truly diehard fans. They are giving you their time and giving you their money to go in and staying connected with you as an artist.
Absolutely. I mean, we're very. I'm a very private person. Like I don't even know if there's a word for how private I am.
Okay.
But I'm really private. And, we've even opened up our studio and had people in for a private listening party in our control room in our studio.
Nice.
Patrons. So local ones, right? Because it just blows me away. I mean, I'm a patron of a couple of outlets that I feel are important. But yeah, it still just blows us away. It never gets old for us that people do this for us. We'll never take it for granted ever. It's an incredibly beautiful gift.
I think that page itself is or will become one of the most important platforms for artists moving forward. I started my own Patreon page about 2 weeks ago and stuff. And so again, I'm growing it myself as well. I'm very early on. I'm very early on in the process. But obviously, if I want to try and grow the show, or if you're an upcoming band and you've just released an album or something, you have to be on there. I think that's probably the most important platform you have to focus on. At the same time, there also needs to be a balance where you don't push nothing but, you have to sign up. But again, like you guys are doing, you're providing some value. If you come in, if you want to become a fan and you will give us, $24 a year or however much else people can afford per month to become a part of your community, they get all the music, they get first dips, they get insider stories, they even get a listening party at your studio. If you're a fan, stuff like that is priceless.
They get songs, like we have songs on our Facebook page that nobody else gets, right? Our patrons get everything now because our Facebook page came before our Patreon page. But absolutely, they're going to get things that nobody else in the world is ever going to get. Yeah,
that's awesome. And that also gives you that, like as a fan, like you feel appreciated, you feel significant because you are, like you have access to that stuff that's not public anywhere else.
That's right.
That's a really good tip actually for artists to do that.
Yeah, and it works for us, like because we've been at this game our whole lives, right? So I'm, as I say, being on stage is natural for me. It's incredibly natural, and I've spent probably hundreds of thousands of hours of my life on stage. So I'm not 18 years old and like, oh, I gotta get on this, I gotta do this, right? Like I'll do this when it's right and when the crowd is right and the stage has got to be right, the lighting's got to be right, because I know how to put on a rock show. So you have complete control when you do it this way. But other people may just feel like they need 100,000 likes on a Facebook page and have at her. That is fine. You got to figure out what you want. Like your true why, your purpose, your capital P purpose, your capital W why. Why am I doing this? When you can answer those questions, that's what gets you out of bed and motivates you every day.
Yeah, for sure. Couldn't agree more. In regards to, because now you're talking about like your natural performer on stage. If you guys cannot perform in Canada, where are you guys playing shows? I mean, you're so close to North America, which you see all bands from all over the world. Like that is like the European festivals and touring North America are sort of like equally number one. Like that's what all bands wants to achieve. Have you guys done any of that?
Not with Once Will Thrust. No. I think our sound leans too classic rock, right? And it's too hard rock for the blues festivals. So any opportunities we've had, Stefan, just would have cost us a lot of money. And again, we've all played a lot of gigs. You know, I don't need your gig. I want your gig. I want to play for people, yes, but not to my own detriment. Why would I do that?
No, it's such a, it's like, it really upsets me to hear about musicians having to pay to play live. I spoke to a guy a couple of weeks ago who actually had a really good analogy on how to perform live. He said, we love playing live. So same as yourself, like it feels like that's the whole purpose of our existence as a band. Like we want to be on stage. So they wanted to try and go somewhere new. So they booked a tour in Ukraine and Russia. And like mind you, they're from Denmark to begin with, so it's very easy for them to sort of drive over there. You know that, But what they did is, so they got a hold of a promoter and booked a 2-week tour where they had, like, I think they were playing 10 shows in 2 weeks. So, you know, you're pretty much playing every night. And needless to say, you know, they played a lot of shows to almost empty crowds. But when they came back, he said, "Oh, it was so good. We came back, and I think we just broke even." And I'm like, "Look, from a business perspective, that sounds like the dumbest decision you can do." But again, I get it. You know, I've walked the walk as well, you know, as I said, 15, 20 years ago. So I understand it. But what really was beautiful about what he said was, for him or for them, it was they ran on the currency of memories, and that line has stuck with me. Because it's such a beautiful thing, because he said all those memories are priceless. Like us playing these shows, visiting those places, it's almost like we had a 2-week holiday doing what we love. So as long as we come home and we break even and we can go back to our day job, save up money and do it again, is what kept them going. And I thought that was quite unique. Yeah,
it's a good currency, memories. You know,
it is.
It doesn't put food on the table, but then you have memories, you know.
Exactly.
We're Jag and I are of the age that, like, we had years of touring nonstop. That's how we made our livings, just nonstop touring, you know. So lots and lots of touring. Touring is great fun, and it's also not that fun at times too. Like round
can
and
be
round.
Taxing,
Yeah. So it's nice if you can set your career up so that you're doing some touring and then you're doing some recording, and I don't know if you're doing jingle work or whatever it is that you do in between. You know, if it's only music that you're about. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, again, we do play here. We will release the concert, or the album in concert. In fact, we're just in talks with a film company here because we're thinking of doing, because people can't come out to the concert right now during the pandemic, right? So we're thinking of doing a live concert and having a film company film it. So it's live. It's us performing live. Yeah.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah. So I believe that's what we're going to do. You know, there's some cost with the album we're releasing on vinyl. It's a double album, new album. So
actually, I was about to say, just while you're talking about that, I'm just going to bring up the album cover here, so people can have a look at the album cover, because the album cover is amazing. Like, it's so unique, so detailed. Is that a custom drawing?
Absolutely. I'll tell you, the artist is a local artist by the name of Erin Reese. Brilliant artist. She's also a tattoo artist and she's my tattoo artist.
Wow.
She is one of the most talented people I've ever met, and also one of the nicest people. And she has the coolest dog. Yeah, so we asked her, "Hey, can you do this?" And she's, yeah, I'll do this. And, you know, she did a mock-up, and we liked it, and then it all fell together quite quickly.
Wow. No, it looks amazing. And that's again. So you're saying so that's a part of a double album?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's the cover artwork.
So how many
So
songs in total have you got there?
um, I will release something here that no one knows. There's 13 songs on the album proper of new songs, and we are going to
Yep.
release remixes of 4 of our hits from our other albums on the 4th side. So
Yeah.
it's
Awesome.
yeah,
Cool.
including Glenn's song there. You'll get to hear "Go Home and Melt" again, I think. Oh boy, guys, is a band out there? Somebody comment. Is that right?
Yeah. Oh, we've got a lot of comments. We'll get back to them a little bit later. Hey, so anybody watching out there, yeah, keep commenting, keep engaging. We'll have a look at that a little bit later. I'd like to talk a little bit more about the new album because it obviously came, or it was like you guys were supposed to release it sort of during this whole pandemic stuff. How did that go down in Canada? All this COVID stuff. Because it's just nuts, you know. It's everywhere. It keeps every time I talk to people about it. It's like it just blows my mind that it's not just in your country and my country. It's like the whole world. So how did that affect you guys?
Well, first of all, I'm very insular anyway. As I say, ultra private. All my studios are in my living space, so I already live and work at home when I'm not out making an appearance.
Mm.
So that was actually not a big change for me. The biggest change for me personally was the fact there were more people around than there usually is.
Yeah.
But to speak about it from a more collective viewpoint, what you said about it's hitting the whole world, you know, like it took I'm all about, as I say, candles, obviously. I carve ritual candles. And, you know, at the beginning, Jag and I would sit every night in the dark and put a candle in the window. I very much believe in that concept for anybody. You know, it's happened to me where I've gone past a window at a time in my life and there's a candle in the window. You know, and it's a hashtag for me, actually, put a candle in the window.
Mm.
So we would sit there at night and just try to be peaceful, right? And, you know, one night I said, you know, Jag, it's not like we didn't know this, but it's just hit me that everybody else in the world is going through the same thing we're going through right now. Different.
Yep. Yep.
Absolutely. People are having different karma. I mean, some people get sick. Some people have lost their jobs. You know, some people have had horrible tragedy around this, and other people are maintaining and hanging on. And that fascinates me, that the different streams of karma.
Yeah.
With a huge wave of destruction, you know. And it's they locked us down here. They asked us to shelter in place. I mean, we're Canadians. We're very polite, most of us anyway. And so people were, you know, very good. And of course, what happens is there's a lot of misinformation. So people are now struggling.
Oh,
and
yes.
They're trying to reopen. And that, you know, our government, we don't have a good government here in Alberta.
Right.
Very greedy, very oil centric. And they're making decisions. They're doing, I can't believe some of the things they're doing. And then people are in such a like the truth is the whole globe is in a state of trauma, and you can't heal from trauma while you're in it, and we're all still in it, right? So again, coming back to, you know, how I talked about symbols are very, very important to me. In fact, one of my favorite songs I've ever written for this band is called Symbols. It's on the second album. And for example, people are verbally attacking people who are wearing masks right now. And this happened to Jag on Friday.
Wow.
An older gentleman.
What was he saying?
Well, first of all, he was very passive aggressive and was getting into Jag's personal space, right? So I mean, you're supposed to physically distance, and it's just like, I was combat trained for 20 years. I don't like people too close to me anyway, right? So I'm like, oh, no, I'm just kidding. I'm so not about that. but we understand that people are stressed and they're having different reactions to things. But the mask is a symbol to a lot of people right now of this thing that they fear so deeply, and they're in such deep denial about it.
Mm.
So I really believe that's why people all over here in North America, not just in Canada, people not wearing masks are going after people who are wearing masks in a very judgmental way.
But it's like the whole mask thing is so misunderstood, because the mask is actually to protect others. Like the mask protects others from your germs. It doesn't do that much for you, but it protects others from when you're coughing. And that's, I don't think people actually understand that, because if people were educated enough to understand that that's the whole point of wearing a mask, it's to protect you from my germs. Then I think people would be, it would kind of be reversed. I said, thank you so much for wearing a mask. I'm not going to do it, but I appreciate you doing it.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it should be. It's, and of course, really, if you think about it, just logistically, if two people are wearing a mask and physically distanced, the chance of exposure is very nullified.
Yeah.
Just think a little bit about it. But people are terrified. There's such a deep denial in people, and it's just a symbol to them, right? So.
Well, that's again, like if it is such a big fear and stuff, like then maybe you should stay at home. Maybe you shouldn't go out unless it's absolutely crucial, which I know most people are doing anyway. They go to the shops, they go to the doctors, but otherwise, they should isolate. And that's again, it's a good thing. It allows conversations like this to happen, because everybody's at home, or most people are at home around the world, except for obviously essential workers and stuff. But yeah, the whole mask thing is crazy. We have the same here, same as like Australia is no different to Canada or the States, Europe in any way. So yeah, it's just crazy. It's the whole situation.
Yes.
And again, how that will impact the music business, which again, I've had a chat to a lot of the other musicians I've had on, is the fact that this will most likely be one of the last industries to come back at 100%, because you have such a dense mass of people at concerts. Like, when are you going to be able to play stadium shows? When are you going to be able to play, sold out arenas and stuff? Like, you can't do that.
No, we can't. Yeah, that's why we're looking at filming our concert. And as it is, we're a rock band, but we're more than physically distanced on a proper stage anyway, which is fine. But we spend time together. I'm on the drum riser with Todd, right? Jag and I live in the same home, so we're okay. But how am I going to work with my bass player, right? How's he going to work with his drummer?
Yeah.
So there's so many other things, right?
But the whole concert thing and the whole concert live stream is something you see more and more bands pick that up now, because that will be a way, especially for the bigger established bands, that is a way for them to now generate an income. They can put a stream up and people can pay, $5, $10, $20 to access the stream and go to the concert.
I think that's what we're doing with ours, because we'll sell virtual tickets to it.
Yep.
It's just a matter of when we want to release. We're thinking right now, sometime in the autumn, sometime maybe October. I don't know. At first, when it happened, of course, the pressing plant, everything's shut. Like, everything's done right now. The plant's up now, so that's okay. So we're just playing it by ear, and it's very much a state of limbo, right? And people are pushing for more of that. Governments are pushing for more of that. As I say, our government here is so greedy; it's just trying to open everything up. So it doesn't care about anything but money. And people are tired of sheltering in place. And in Canada, we have, like I say, about 2 minutes worth of summer, right? So people just, it actually worked well for us, because our winter was extra long and really ugly. Like the early part of our spring was like winter, so people were just kind of hunkering in the house. Well, we got to be in here anyway. But now it's like, get me out. And one of the first things they talk about opening is playgrounds. I thought, please. Nick, who's driving your plane, man? Who makes
Yeah.
that decision? Honestly.
It's
Don't
yeah. Yeah, kids are, probably the biggest germ spreaders in the whole world.
Well, and also we want to take care of our babies, right?
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Like again, we were like as soon as something came out here in regards to the virus, we started isolating straight away. Our middle son is special needs, so he's got a low immune system. So we were really, really on front of that. So yeah, we've pretty like we put them back in school. I think what is it, 2 weeks ago or something. So we had a good 6 to 7 weeks of just staying at home. But yeah, the thought of starting to put them out and about and exposing them to other people, it has been sort of very low on the priority list. In saying that, though, we're actually very fortunate here in Perth because again we're so isolated, the most isolated metropolitan city in the world. There you go.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, we are just to put things into. Just to put things into context, we're 3,500 kilometers away from Melbourne, which is the nearest capital city, or the nearest major capital city. You got Adelaide in between, but
I like that. We're just looking at leaving the province or this province ourselves because we think it's just going to get worse here.
Right.
With COVID, just to do with the government.
Come to Perth then.
Wow, sounds really good.
And again, it's like talking about playing live. There's a huge upcoming scene here. There's like a lot of places that are really embracing live music and especially embracing upcoming bands. In fact, a guy I had on 2 nights ago during our stream, someone apparently from some radio station was watching in and reached out to him after the show and asked if he could send him some songs. He would put it on rotation on their radio and stuff. So I think that sort of shows you a little bit of sort of the mindset of the local music community here, which is really nice.
That is beautiful. I'm happy to hear it.
Yep.
Good to know it's right there.
It is again, and it's so great again that you can sort of connect dots in between people that are sort of watching in and out from all over the world. Like this is the first time I'm talking to someone from Canada, so you never know, you might get some airplay on a Perth radio station soon.
I hope so.
Yeah, I could definitely help you connect the dots there.
Okay, let's talk about that too.
Yeah, absolutely. We can have a chat about that after.
We sure can.
But so trying to get back to the new album. So you're saying you're planning on releasing that fairly soon. What's the promotional thoughts about it? How are you going to market it this time, except for the live stream or the live concert?
Pretty much that, because we really believe that this pandemic is going to continue. It's going to be about a year, and then the fallout from it's going to be, as you say, when are you going to be able to fill a venue? So again, we pretty much do what we do for our Secret Rock Society. It's anybody's welcome. So it's because it's on vinyl, we'll sell it that way. After a certain amount of time, we're considering also selling it digitally.
Yep.
But we're starting out with just let us know you want one.
Have you got any other avenues of income? Like, can you do merch sales, or have you got any sponsors, any affiliate links that you could bring in to have some joint ventures with or anything? Or is
Not right now.
Okay.
No, we don't have. We'd like to get Aaron's artwork on a T-shirt, and everything else. Just you can merch anything right now. So we may be doing some of that. It'll depend. We talk to the fans. We talk to our people and see, do you want this? Was this something you need? Or do you just want the music? So, like, the thing is, everything we do, we self-finance. Right? Our patrons are helping us, yes, but pretty much it's coming out of our pockets. So if we have to take it down to the bare bones, what are we? We're not sales people.
No.
Right? We're musicians.
You're artists.
Yeah. So if that's all we can do, then that's what we're going to do. So we'll see. We have, I would say that there was, it's been a while since we canned the last manager.
Right.
So to speak, and working with publicists, and it's just again, it's expensive, and they don't seem to deliver. They're out there,
Yeah.
but we just don't really play the game.
I think it's also one of those things where, again, there's just this too many, as you said before, there's too many con artists, too many scammers out there. Because again, if you go and ask, if somebody's asking for your money to help you out, they better be able to have a proven track record. Like the guy I was talking to last night, he's been still is signed to two major labels. He's in two different bands back in Denmark, and has for the last decade they've released multiple albums through Warner and Sony and stuff. And he said, I think that he has really been exposed to through being on major labels is the network. Like they have such a good network. Because that's, they can get you on the radio, they can get you on TV, get you in all the news magazines, to get exposure. But now they're recording a new album. And he said, I think that he has learned from being on the major labels is the fact that I can't do it myself, but I can find someone that are really good at it, because he now knows who has helped them while they were on the major label. So I said the really important thing is get your music on Spotify, big Spotify playlists. Get someone almost like a manager, as you said yourself, to actually actively get you out to the right audiences that suits your music. So he was talking about the importance of having an aggregator and a plugger.
Oh yeah,
that was super interesting. Would that be something that you would consider? Because obviously that do require some sort of payment, but
we've done that. We've done that with the first two albums, and it's helpful. You get airplay. You see it in the numbers, right? But again, it's like it just doesn't need to happen. It's if I'm just not going to go after that. If someone comes to me, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
It's I understand why our sound isn't current enough that I don't actually want a deal on a major label. I'm far past that, and I've had a lot of friends who've worked with majors, and I've been in the business my whole life. My mother was an agent. She was a big agent here in Canada in the 80s. I know the drill. I know the business, and it doesn't hold the magic for me anymore. So if the right person was there, we could talk about it.
Yeah.
And I would think, why would I do that? Would I be doing that? Is this an investment in what? Sometimes it's better to take over the world one person at a time.
Again, I suppose also again it comes down to the final outcome, like the goal. Like if the goal is to retain this core group of fans and let that grow organically, then yeah, absolutely everything you're doing now is only going to help that. It's only going to push that out, because again you are true to the art.
Yeah, and in that, I've still worked to talk about airplay in Perth, you and I, at another time.
I'm for sure
not opposed to it. We have some of the best independent radio in the world, a station called CKUA right here in the city we live in. We'll surely be talking to them to see if they want to play us. But I know that, and I have done it. Even now, just making sure, the newsletter goes out, or that the fans we do have know what we're doing, like even for a small event like this. Small because there's just the two of us.
Yeah.
And, that takes a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
So I have had to wear the hat of, writer, editor, publicist, absolutely. And I mean writer, like copywriter. And I can write. I used to write bios for other bands, because I write not only songs, I write. Right. So I can do all of that, and you would never sleep, and I would probably not get too many songs written. And next thing you know, the actual reason we're doing it isn't happening anymore. So, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so time consuming. Like again, depending on how many hats you have to wear. You know, if you've got to be the songwriter, the producer, the promoter, the salesperson, the one who's updating all the social media and stuff, it becomes too much. I know all about that because I'm doing it right now. I'm trying to.
I was thinking about that as you were talking. Thinking, right now, and then when you live, we're the road manager, and I found Jag and I found quite a few years ago, we'd go out to gigs, and the crew on site, we knew more than they did, and it's just like, oh, that's a shit show. That when that's going down, that's gonna fall over. Oh Lord.
Yeah.
Right. But that, for me, as I say, I was lucky. I came from a background in the business too. So, with my family.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. The whole thing is a business, and it's like to get the right people can be, can be like nearly impossible, because it has to be someone, especially if you are actually going, if you're going touring and stuff. It needs to be people that you can hang out with, that you can socialize with, because you'll be spending so much time together.
Right, and people you can trust to have your back. Like without the right tour, the road manager, no, I'm not going anywhere. I gotta know that I can rely on that guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, so everybody out there, if you are watching along, if you want to start asking some questions now, we'll go to a FAQ probably in the next 10 minutes. Another thing I've been looking at here is you actually spoke a little bit about that earlier, about how you couldn't play in Canada, but or not, you could pay to play. But in regards to the last 10 years, where else have you gone? Have you in regards to playing shows, have you done any of those pay to play shows in the earlier stages, or is it predominantly
basically what we did a few self-promotion shows where like the nicer clubs would sort of share the door with you or something like that, and for all I know right now the clubs here have changed. This was just a few years ago, and we just went, well, we don't need to do that. So what we'll tend to do is I toured and played a lot of bars, and I'm not a bar performer.
No.
Okay. I need a certain amount of stage. I want, the gear has to be, everything I have to be able to hear what I'm doing. I have to have room to move, and the rest of the band is like that as well. So we will self-promote, and we'll find a theater. I mean, for example, really, this is how we like to roll. For the release concert for the third album, Hold the Vision, Trust the Process, we rented a small, very small, completely unknown theater in the Arts District here. A theater where you guys probably have fringe festivals in Australia.
We do. Yep.
Yeah, a lot of fringe productions would go on there, but it was a not-for-profit run by a local arts community, and most people didn't even know it existed. And we have a tendency to do this kind of thing as part of being a secret society. We sold tickets to it, and nobody knew where they were going until 4 hours before the show. So everybody had to contact us. Yes, I want tickets. Buy their tickets in advance and give us their cell numbers. And then we had one of our promo people 4 hours prior text everybody, this is where you're going for the one.
I like it.
Right. So we have a tendency to do things that way. We've always, so it's almost like, we might even do a flash show, like, just don't quote me on that, flash show.
But that's awesome. I love that idea.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's part of being a creator. It's just like this stuff comes, yeah, let's do this, let's do it that way. The first single for that album, Perfect Scream.
Yeah.
We filmed it in front of a house in our neighborhood that's on kind of a point. That's this old 70s mansion that's been deserted forever. And of course, I don't know about, probably not where you live, but where we live, there's such a thing as infill, where people come in, money people come in, and they buy perfectly fine homes, and they just rip them down, and they rebuild these things.
Now we have that here too. Yeah.
Things with no soul, right? And this house has a lot of soul, right? So it had this big green space in front of it. So hey, so we just went down there, and we had a very artsy camera operator, and we just boom. We the night before we canvassed the neighborhood, saying, hey, there's a video shoot going on from these blah blah, and so we just up and do these things, and that's likely how now we're going to up and do. It's not that's different or unique to record a concert, to film a concert right now. But that's probably how we're going to have to do this one. And who knows what we'll do afterwards. I mean, the first available opportunity where we can get people in a theater with us, because we want to do that for them. People, and we're their band, and I mean, some of those people their voices are on the end of Golden Souls, the first release from the new album, right? You hear those voices at the end going, we're here.
Yeah, wow.
Those are our fans. That was at a private reception during the recording of the album. And of course, our producer was here. So we had, meet the producer, because these people had met us but didn't meet him. And we had a few tunes just ready to go. And I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. And it just came to me that day. I was like, okay, everybody, we're passing around iPhones. And this is what we want you to say. Just say this. And, you're going to be on the album. You have an opportunity to be in the album. If I think somebody was shy and maybe didn't say anything, but that's all those voices, right? I mean, that's, as I say, we're their band and they're our people, right? Yeah. So we want them there. Let's do Golden Souls. Let's record us doing Golden Souls while you guys are doing your part at the end. That's performance art, and that's what it should be.
That is so cool that you say that, because I had pretty much exactly the same idea about a song where I just needed one line for the chorus, and it's taking me too long. I'm sitting here every day. I'm trying to find time to record a little teaser that I can put out there on the internet, just to ask people to do exactly what you just said. Just sing this one line. I think it's like 7 words. Just sing this line on your phone. I don't care, or in your studio. It doesn't matter. Take it out. Record that line and email it back to me. That's all you have to do. If you do that, by the time I release that song, I will put your name on it. And you're right. It's such a fun way to engage with the fans, or engage with people out there. And it makes them feel a little bit significant too, because they can say, "Oh, hey, I'm not a singer, but I'm actually on their album." I love that. I love the fact you guys have done that.
It's totally organic. I mean, we've on several of our recordings, we have a good friend of many years who has one of the most brilliant voices I've ever heard. Big guy with his deep, resonant voice, and we've used his voice on just about every album. It's like, hey man, send me, just record it on your now on an iPhone. Back in the day there were iPhones. Just come on, send it over, and he will, and we just fly it in, and we're there's that voice.
But it's crazy also with technology these days, because pretty much everybody can sit at home and record something like really, really good sounding stuff. Like even on your iPhones, like put on a headset and the audio quality, like once you run that through Pro Tools or Logic or whatever sort of platform you're using, you can really spice it up, especially if you hide it under a couple of effects, or if it's a backing vocal. It's crazy how you can literally get people with no equipment whatsoever to send you some stuff that you can use on a professional recording. It's crazy.
Or even filming, like the video for Golden Souls, we all filmed on iPhones. Right?
Wow.
Todd, of course, we were sheltering in place, right? So Todd was in his studio. He set up his iPhone. He sent us a couple takes.
Of course, yeah.
Zeg just, did a handheld follow me on the street. And then he also did a handheld in one section of the studio. And then I set up and, monitored a handhold for him. And it's all iPhones. We just did a couple takes each. So it's really raw. It's what we wanted, right? And the whole thing was, I was under extreme compulsion by the Whispers. At that point, people didn't know if the world was gonna last a week or not. So I'm sure that's why that compulsion came to me. But it was like, the song basically is talking about souls who come to serve. It's unique because it was written in 2018. It was recorded in 2019. Here we are in 2020. It was already in the can. Boom. So that idea came to me, and within 5 days we had done the filming, and Jag and I do the video editing for the band, and edited it and put it out, and then I could go to sleep. I'm like, leave me alone. There, I did.
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
I've left my mark. Well, it's I can relate to that 100%. That's because that's the exact same story I actually have about that song that I really wanted to try and finish with people just singing those 7 words, because it's a song I wrote about 8 or 9 years ago, which is so relevant right now. It's something called The Whole World is Singing This Song, which is what the whole world is at the moment. The whole world is in this crazy turmoil. So it's
I want to sing on this. Can I do the 7 words for you? I want to be part of that.
yeah, absolutely. I'd love you to, actually. That would be fantastic. It's the whole it's all about, and it's again the whole community of music. It's all about, it's everybody I've spoken to, everybody's so positive. It's all about, look, can I help you out? Like, if there's anything I can do to, and it's such a giving community. And because it's not about money. If you're a true artist, if you're someone who's really genuine about what you're doing, it's not about the money. And that's why it's so inspiring to hear your story, because it's clearly to see you guys are in it 100% for the art. So you're in control. You decide what you want to do. Yeah. And it's rare. It's so rare to hear that as well.
And see, again, for symbols, money, Stefan, is only power.
It is.
People who want money and who want to have lots of it want lots of power, right? So it's such an ego thing, right? So if you can make money doing whatever it is you do, go ahead, but let it not be why, because I've seen it with everybody I've seen in the business. I've seen them compromising. I've been with people who compromised for money, and we are, the only way we compromise for money is if we don't have enough, right? So we go, okay, well, we'd like to do this. I mean, like right now, for example, we have 3 different film budgets we can work with for the concert, and lower budget, medium budget, high budget, right? There you go. We'll figure out. I know for myself as an artist, if I have a complete, as I say, the Whispers, if I have a complete compulsion, it's got to be this way. Yeah. And then I know it's coming from somewhere else, and there's a whole nother reason for it. And you can't ever ignore that, because you will learn the reason at some point, right? You got to go with it. That's the only thing that the time we would be thinking of money, but we are in complete artistic control of what we do, and it's going to stay that way.
Yeah, I love hearing that, because that again is so it's genuine. Like again, it's authentic, which again also underscores pretty much the essence of most of the people that I've been speaking to again over the last couple of weeks. I remember what one of the guys said. Look, I would rather be poor and make music than I would want to be rich and not make music. Because he said it's such it's the fulfillment you get from releasing your own songs, creating your own songs, far outweighs anything else. I think it's just the stigma that you get from people around you, especially as you get older. Like for instance, myself now, I'm in my early 40s. I've got 3 kids. Why do you need to go and do this nonsense? Why do you need to sit and chat to people? Shouldn't you go out and get a proper job? And music, aren't you a little bit too old for that? Is there an age limit to play music? You know what I mean? Like, it's
that is awful. And yeah, I have learned that when someone says something like that to me, or one of my artist friends to you, it's not about you; it's about them.
100%. It's the same. It's the same thing about the mask. You know what I mean? It's because people cannot relate to it the same way. They don't understand. They like if you aren't an artist, if you aren't a musician, you will never understand the mindset of that other person. It's exactly the same as if you're talking to someone who doesn't have kids and they're trying to tell you about what it's like to have kids. That you're probably not the right person to tell me about that.
No, and I bow to people like you. We have one, and you have three.
Yeah. and they're little, so like we've got a 9 months, almost 10 months old, and 6 and nearly 5. Yeah, so there's a.
Oh my God! Wow!
So
good, but you are actually doing your career as well.
And again, I need I'm solely relying on my wife who can look after the kids, while I'm doing this. I can hear them out in the living room at the moment, sort of playing around and stuff. But it's just about finding that balance. Actually, being in a relationship is kind of the same as being in a band. You've got to be on the same page.
Oh yeah.
You've got to be able to make it work. Because otherwise, you're going to fire the drummer or the bass player because he doesn't fit in the square box that you want to try and do everything. And it's the same as being married or being in a relationship.
Truly, yeah. You got to communicate. You got to learn each other's style. If your wife is handling the 3 babes, your wife is a goddess. You probably know that. I'm just
100%. I couldn't do any of this without her. Literally, I could not do anything if she wasn't here. So that's also why it's very important for me to make sure that we are on the same wavelengths. I took last night off, and we were watching a movie and trying to relax a little bit because again, obviously, I am spending a lot of time at the moment because I want to try and build this up. So it can't be so I don't need to go out and have a daytime job. Eventually, that would be the long-term goal because this is so much more giving, so much more empowering.
Like I can see it and I can feel it. The potential is there, man. So you let us know what we can do to help you too. Because you're doing a good thing, and your heart is right there.
It is 100%. It's and like I said, it's since I started doing this, it's been so overwhelming in so many ways, because it's obviously you still have that the little voices saying, oh, you should go out and get a day job. And at the same time, you're like, no, I don't want to. I want to hear these stories. I want to connect to real people. I don't want to turn the TV on and hear about how many people died in New York or Italy or Spain or something. I want to talk to people that are positive, that have good stories to tell, and most importantly, have some like be exposed to some really, really good songs. The amount of good music that I've heard in the last couple of weeks, bands I would never have heard about unless I had been doing this. So that itself is mind blowing. How much talent there is, like out there, like literally at the other end of the screen. And all it takes is just for someone to send me an email, send me a link, say, oh, look, this is my song. I said, oh, wow, let's have a talk. You know what I mean? And again, and there's absolutely no strings attached. No, you have to pay me money stuff. No, it's genuine because that is what this community is about.
And honestly, I think you should have our drummer on. You guys got to do a drummer to drummer thing.
Absolutely.
He's a blast. He's wonderful. People just love him. They just look at his face and they go, I love that guy.
Yeah, for sure. Hook me up. I'd love to talk. I'd love to talk to him.
Yeah, because I could see you going so many different avenues with this. But then of course my brain, I'm constantly creating. Oh, I can see that for this and this for that.
Yeah, and like literally, as long as you are in some way of like a creative person, it doesn't even have to be a musician. It could be if you're a producer or a booker or a tour manager. Or if you've played music 10 years ago, but you really miss it and you don't really play anymore. Cool. Well, let's have a talk about that. It's just to hear people's genuine stories about how music is important in one way or the other.
We used to, for a short time, we had a YouTube page called Talk the Rock. And we'd get together with a couple other musicians and just talk about music that, a song or an album that influenced us. Right? And different age groups too, and it just really didn't go anywhere. We just couldn't keep it up,
Right.
But that in itself, we sometimes will sit down as a band. I mean, we have the whole performance thing. I mean, we do breathing before we rehearse. We have a lot we do, but we start every one of our gatherings together with this, what we call This Week in One Soul Thrust. And it's like, man, well, what have you been doing? It's like, over to you, Todd. So it's like, well, I've been practicing this, I've been listening to this, I've been listening to that. And then, if we got a lot of business stuff coming up, like Jag's, okay, I was talking the pressing plant, blah, blah, blah. And of course, Jag is a guitar builder and an amp builder, right? And so we've been doing some of this, and I play, and so we've been together long enough to watch each other, how we've grown and where we're at, and it's the same type of thing. And when we haven't connected for quite a while, for whatever reason, when we sit down, man, it's at times that we stop and we go, we should have recorded that because we were just talking about this, that, that album, so-and-so, and I'm Buddy Rich, and blah, 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 musicians, right?
Yeah, yep.
And it's really worth seeing and worth participating in. Like, this is great, this format, where people can pop on and go, hey, right on, man. Maybe I don't like your toque, or whatever, where people can actually be a part of this. I'm not seeing the scroll, you're seeing it, right?
Yep.
But that's beautiful when people can, in real time. Is that one of your babies? I'm hearing.
Well, basically, this here is it's like recording a podcast with an audience, because ultimately, what I've actually just started, I put the first podcast, so the first interview I did about six or 7 weeks ago, I put that first one on the platform, the podcast platform, I think yesterday or the day before. So that is ultimately where everything goes. But the cool thing about it is, if you do have a bit of an audience while we're actually recording it, yes, as like you said, people can engage and they can say, oh, by the way, I would love to ask you about this and that, which you can't do if you're just recording a standard podcast. And another cool thing is, obviously, I've shown up a couple of photos of some of the photos that you sent through to me. So you have that as well. You also have, a song to begin with and a song to finish with. So if you actually are watching the stream, you get the full package. Like, you get the conversation, you get to engage, get to ask questions. You get the visual side of it as well. So it's a really fun format. But ultimately, this is to extract the audio that we can then put on the podcast, so people can listen to that in weeks or years from now. And again, the most beautiful thing about the podcast format in general is it takes enough time out for you to tell your story, which you wouldn't get. Something, again, I spoke to Frederick about last night, like the guy who's on a couple of major labels. He said every time they did TV spots while they were signed to major labels, you have like 3 minutes. What are you going to talk about in 3 minute? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can't get into details. You can't talk about, your experience recording with Glenn Hughes, or how you're promoting your new album, or how you grew up and you've been performing since you were 4 years old. Good luck telling that in 3 minutes. It's impossible. So again, so if people are true fans, they will listen to it.
Yeah.
And if they are curious. Just before we run over to do a couple of questions here, something I ask everybody, that I've got a little post-it note here, is tips and tricks. Tips and tricks. Have you got anything? If anyone listening in, or anyone who'll be listening to it later, are in a band or in the entertainment industry or something, a couple of encouraging tips and tricks to sort of keep them going when the mood is low, or I remember we did this and this was wicked, it really helped us. Or again, like, if you have your own sort of routines or something you do to stay connected and stay true, or anything really, but something that you think would benefit bands or artists out there.
Well, certainly, as a performance coach, I can tell you need rituals.
Yep.
Ritual is huge. Ceremony and ritual. Again, when we start a One Soul Thrust gathering, it's with This Week in One Soul Thrust. Where you at, man? What have you been doing? Salem, what about this? What about that? So, say before a show, before a gig, you need to know all the steps you have to take. And there are different types of gigs. So you actually need a list. If you haven't been doing it your whole life, you definitely need a list. And even if you have been doing it your whole life, you need a list. Because it's amazing the amount of input and chaos that can come at you at any given moment. And you need to be able to take your steps to get you to the stage in top form, right? You need to know that that's your goal. So if you have a list, it's like, okay, it may seem crazy, like, okay, day of, right? I have lists, I have rituals I do for, let's say it's for a gig, so a couple of weeks before the gig, a week before the gig, a few days. I start working on my costuming. What's feeling right for this? What's that? And I do a lot of costume changes during the show too. So, feeling that out, that'll work with that, and what you eat. I know that, okay, where I'm at with this, I know I've got to watch. I'm a singer. I've got to watch dairy when I'm close to a show, right? So you can plan your menu, plan your food, have your food made already. For God's sakes, don't wait on what's going to be around. I mean, craft services, it could be good.
Yeah, right. Yep.
It could be a nightmare, right? And so you have to have your cooler, right? So you're going to know that that's going to have to be packed. Who's driving the bus, who's doing, right? And know that you get up, maybe what's your show, 9 at night, 7, whatever. You get up and you're going to breathe first thing. Breathing and hydration are the two most important things we do as performers. So you get up and you have your morning breathing routine. And if you're a singer, let's see how are my pipes today. Once you wake up enough, of course, you got to have some warm liquid, whatever that is for you. If it's honey and lemon water, but you have to have your morning warm-up routine. So you're going to sing some warm-up, right? Going to warm your voice up a bit. If you're a drummer or guitar player, whatever, you're going to, what's happening with my forearms today, right? Okay, right? Maybe you're going to have some band work, right, to loosen up the joints. Any age, you have to loosen up your joints. This is a temple, particularly if you are a singer or a drummer. Because, drummers blow my mind. Singing drummers, geez, your brain's going in 5, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So, if this isn't working right, your show is screwed, right? Now, chances are, you're going to have to work sometimes through you're feeling a little bit sick and so on. Maybe you're not going to be in your A game, but if you have envisioned and worked and rehearsed and worked through your day and followed your list, make sure you're eating regularly. You've got to eat regularly. It's so easy to get busy when you're touring, or even if it's just before a one night or a big show, right? It's especially if you're the band leader, right? Or and someone this and then this, and get some quiet time, get some private time, because you have to stop and go, what's actually happening here? Jesus, I have a low level headache. Maybe I'm coming down with something. Okay, well, some vitamin C, some broccoli, which is full of vitamin C, right? Whatever you do. So, and you have your steps, and you have that written down, and follow it. Because, another example, like I remember us doing, it was for the project before One Soul Thrust, the release concert, and the security guy was also a fan of the band, and of course no one was allowed in the venue yet, and we were still not that big of a touring show. I was, and we like to get our hands on our instruments anyway, but I was tuning up my guitars. Well, he comes up and he starts yucking at me, and I'm trying to tune my guitars, right? And I'm like, I'm like, oh, I'm so close, right? And I'm like, oh, I can't talk to you, man. But again, there are people, and there's another thing to understand: people think of us as two-dimensional almost. We're almost like pictures in a magazine, right? Or the person who did the video they watched, right? And it's like, hey, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about this? And it's like, sometimes you have to find a way to say, man, I'm working right now. I just can't talk. So I'll talk to you. There's so many things. So have your prearranged lines for things like that, but stuff will start coming at you, and if you don't have a system that you could fall back on when you're because you're going to have a certain amount of anxiety, and for performers, for a lot of us, for me, I get like a caged lioness, right? I'm like, I've got a show to do.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So you're going to have some heightened awareness, right? And then some people, and I love working with those people because there are people who actually have true stage fright. Well, the last thing you need is a security guy in your face, right? Have
Yeah.
your list, make sure you can get some private time. And this is like, put that in your rider. I'm amazed these days. Like, even, when people go, well, who are you? You're nobody. Look, I need a private room. I've got to warm up. I have to change my clothes. Where do you think I'm going to do that? Yeah, we all change in the van or the bus or, or whatever sometimes, but, those are actually many tips. And I mean, I could talk for a little bit about that. So.
That's some really good advice. And I think most people work better when you're sort of committed to a list, when you're committed to a routine, and you follow a process. So yeah, I love that advice. I think that's something you can use even if you're not a musician. If you just you actually just have something to commit to, whether it's you get up in the morning, as you said, like you have your cup of tea or your water, you have your 30 minutes of exercise or whatever it is you do. You hang out with the kids, so you take them to school, you go to work, or whatever else it is you do. But as an artist, I actually never thought about that. Of course, that's equally important. To have your routines dialed in.
Yeah, and every day starts with the end of the day in my mind. Like, what's going to be happening at the end of this day? Now, if at the end of this day at 9:00, I'm going to jump off the drum riser and I'm going to scream. Everything I do from the minute I get up is going to direct me to that point, because that is my vision and that is my goal. Right? That's my why. That's what I got to do. That's what I choose to do.
Yep.
And so, I've known performers, and I mean, you hear about well-known performers who, man, that guy was a bit of a dick. You have no idea where this person was in that process, trying to get to the point to do what they do for you.
Yep.
Right. So, I can remember I had a day job in a health food store way back, and I was just a kid, kind of between gigs and so on. And I looked up, I got this vibe, to say the whispers. And I looked over in the produce section, and I see this guy standing there, his back's to me. And I'm like, there is no question in my mind that is Joe Perry. That is Joe Perry over there.
Nice.
And that's Billy Perry. That's definitely his wife. And there's me and one other person in this store, right? And I'm like, I mean, Aerosmith was a huge influence on me. Early Aerosmith, when they were just still really a rock band, when I was very, very young.
Yep.
And I'm like, what do I do? It's like, they were an influence, right? So he turns around, and then I see his face. I mean, you can't miss that face. That's nobody else, right? And he has a question. So I come up there, and he asked me something about whether this was organic or local or whatever. And I said, excuse me, I do not mean to offend you or invade your privacy. And I got very kind of Joe Perry. He's like, and because I'm not going to go. And I've seen people do it. I'm, oh my God, it's, it's whoever, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, great. Well, yeah. And then I told him more about the bread, and I said, I'm just going to tell you, I'm a singer-songwriter. Aerosmith has been a huge influence, and it's okay if not. But if on your way out the door, somehow a pen gets in your hand, you could sign an autograph, right? And his wife was just beaming with joy at me. Just, I don't know, maybe because I was just in Birkenstocks dressed like a hippie. I don't know, and maybe he normally gets, real groupies.
Yeah.
And I was also a musician, so maybe that, I don't know. She was just the perfect rock star's wife, right? And so they came through again, me and one other girl, and she's like, I don't know, 8 years old. She doesn't even know who they are, right? So I just said, Alice, I won't be able to work the till. It's just like, I don't know, I should be getting ready for a show myself right now. And so she works the till, and then I go to start packing his groceries. And he's like, oh no, you don't have to do that. And I said, no, really, I do. It's a privilege, man. And he said, so did you still, want that? And I'm like, yeah. And so we did this quiet thing. And when he left, he just said, thank you. Like I was able to pull that off and not really invade their day, and, even unknown artists, we have strange things happen to us. I've been swarmed, I've been stalked, and I'm not well known like Joe Perry. So,
but I think the way you handle that as well is also because you would also understand how it would be to be in his shoes, and he would no doubt get that wherever he goes. Like he's Joe Perry, he's the guitarist of Aerosmith, like one of the biggest rock bands around. But the way that you weren't, like a screaming teenage groupie, like you were, like you respected that as well. And at the end of the day, like you said, like they're normal people. They just happen to be a very, very high profile. So what you did, I'm sure he would have immense respect for that.
I've never been celebrity blind too. I mean, I've been around well-known people, and people are just people. I don't understand celebrity blind culture. I do, psychologically and cerebrally, I understand it, but I just don't need to go there. I mean, I was 9 when I met Kenny Rogers. I was just a little kid. Knew I was going to be in the business, right? I was with my parents, and it was just a real fun kid musician story. And just they were hanging out backstage and eating pizza, right? And I mean, right away I saw, and somebody was talking about, they sweated too much in the last set and that kind of thing, like just people, right? And also my kind of people too. So I would say vibrationally we can be in the same room together, and there's not gonna be friction, right?
Yeah.
But a celebrity blind culture has done some pretty strange things. It's one of the things that's wrong with the music industry now.
Yeah. What a great story to sort of kind of finish off.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that story. But let's try and see. We're probably going to get a few more stories now, but let's try and head over and see what people are saying here. Because there's quite a few comments as we went. Just try and scroll back to the top here. Jack is saying that working with Glenn was the realization of a lifelong dream for me, but I'm sure it would have been for everybody involved there. That would have been huge. Glenn said at one point as well, you sing higher than the bird in heart.
Yes. Yeah, he did. He said I sang higher than Ann Wilson. I think we actually have this very similar range, so I don't think I sing higher.
Yeah. Oh wow, there's so many. See if I can actually. Is there any way of going back to the start here? All right, we'll just run from here. Judy says, "Living Between Tones, a book that could be written." She does have a way with words.
All right, Judy girl, we'll write that one together.
Oh, I'm sure you could. Like her experience again was mind-boggling as well. Like what she has experienced, man, that was extremely impressive.
Yeah.
The con artist apparently stole a whole house, picked it up and moved it in when the owner was out. Wow. Yeah. I can understand why she went to prison then.
She had to move from one province to another.
Wow. Wow. Marie Butler says, I keep hearing the lifeblood and I am very inspired.
Oh, hey, thank you, Maria.
That is good.
Yeah.
Jack asks, I think that might have been in relation to going to Perth. He asked if we can surf here. I said, yeah, you absolutely can. We've got two of the top 10 top 10 beaches in the world here.
And the Great Whites. You guys got the Great Whites there.
Oh yeah, we actually have a lot of them in Perth. Perth is like one of the
Yeah.
epicenters of great whites. Yeah, but I
Yes.
think it's because of how the waters connect.
Yeah.
So that is quite. But again, I suppose again the chance of actually getting bitten or getting attacked by a grey white, like you'd have more luck winning the lotto or getting struck by lightning. It's just one of those
Yeah.
things, if you mentally can overcome the fear, if you like, of knowing that they are out there, then yeah, the chance of them actually getting to you is non-existent, pretty
Well,
much. But
and
I
for me,
understand. I don't
I
surf
still,
myself, but
I
that's
do. I still cakey waves, like baby waves. That's
yeah,
all. Surfing is like meditation for me. I don't need to get on a big wave, which is strange considering my personality. But
yeah, yeah. Now it's something again. Like you obviously need to have a bit of skill to actually be able to stand up on a surfboard in the water. Uh, and it's personally, it doesn't really do anything for me. But I love watching people, especially the good people, when you watch them
yeah,
surf.
the
Insane.
yeah.
Um, and Todd Preddy, Todd, is that your drummer?
God is our drummer. Yeah, love
Yeah,
it too.
he said that would be sick. I'm sure that's probably relating to if we're gonna have a little chat. That would be excellent.
Yeah,
Um,
you could do Todd. You could have a one on guitars with Jag.
oh yeah, he was doing a couple of. You said he was building amps or something.
Yeah, he builds. They're called Muller Up Amp Works. Actually, Warren Haynes from Government Mule, Allman Brothers. Warren Haynes. He actually owns one of Jag's prototype amps. He used it on an album with Carlos Santana.
Wow,
And Jag is also building guitars now too. So
far out. That's pretty good. That's a great way of sort of creating a job within the industry. But something again, if you build on it, like again, you'd be able to build a brand there.
yeah.
Fantastic. Let's see. Kira JM says a bunch of my favorite people in one place. I'm sure she's talking about all the band members coming in
Yeah,
here.
yeah, she would be. She's pretty precious, that one.
And Jagan says, so if I get bit by a shark, I should go buy a lottery ticket. Oh, if you survive, that's it. Yeah. That's the thing about getting bitten by a grey white. It's usually either you get bit and you die, or you don't and you're fine, because they have a pretty big mouth. So
Yeah.
there's actually a question. I remember Judy said that I should ask you about your warrior training, or your warrior, like your martial arts. I think she was saying how you were. That was something you were quite passionate about.
Yeah, I started training in 2000 with an organization. At the time, it was called the Progressive Combat Academy, but later it was changed to the Urban Combat
Yep.
Special Group. And my trainer and good friend, he's actually the guy with that deep voice that's been on pretty much everything every album we've recorded, is one of the top in the world at that particular system.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's a combination of many systems that is basically personal protection and the way to survive a violent encounter um, against all odds. He was taught by Guru Dan Inosanto, who was Bruce Lee's best friend. He was taught by Paul Vanak and Thomas Cruise, who were the trainers of the original SEAL Team 6. Greg has trained with some pretty amazing people. And, it's poetry in motion to watch him fight. And I trained off and on. When I wasn't training, I was operational for about 20 years. And it's just a very natural part of who I am.
Nice.
And I'm one of the only women in the country, and some of a handful in the world, especially in the beginning, that ever trained it. Because it's ballistic. It's very ballistic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, again, it keeps you fit as well.
Well, and I resigned. I resigned from my team. It was a great honor to be invited to be part of one of a handful of teams in the country that do this. And I resigned from it a few years ago. It just was time in my life. Once you get past 35, how you heal changes. I had when I moved away from my training the first time, it was just after a knife fighting course, and I had gotten my hand cut, and I had to think about my career, and so there were things like that. But I was when I resigned, I was in my early 50s, and I was training hard with guys who were 25 and 30 and 32 and 28, and I mean, big boys, and I'm 5'2", so getting slammed up against the wall, I was just like, I've been getting slammed up against this wall for a long time, and I ended up with a few concussions. I had a concussion from a car accident, actually.
Wow.
Prior to that, so yeah, it's heavy duty, and of course you learn to train and temper and not be injured, but in scenario training, like scenarios, simulating the real thing, anything happens. That's very interesting stories there. But it's it's important in a misogynistic world. It's important for women to know how to do something we do very well, and that is fight.
Fantastic. That's a good story too. Probably doesn't clash super well if you go on tour and you get a concussion and all that stuff. But it's like doing martial arts. Yeah, again, it keeps you both physically and mentally fit because it gives you that extra confidence. Yeah,
absolutely. And this was not like martial arts, in that martial arts certainly has the respect and the discipline and the physical. When people train or fight in a martial arts situation, I mean, there's a reset.
Exactly.
But this is real life scenario training. There's no reset. You learn how to deal with multiple opponents with weapons and things that happen in the real world.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and that you need to know so much. I mean, we study the psychology of combat, psychology of killing. We studied so much on so many levels, because so much happens if you're ever in an assault situation. So.
Yeah, it's one of those things. When I was younger, I did a little bit of martial arts for about 5 or 6 years myself. So yeah, I remember. Yeah, you train hoping you'll never ever have to use it.
Absolutely.
And again, it's always better to walk away than it is to actually try and engage. Yeah. But knowing that, is crucial.
Yeah.
To have the psychology.
Yeah, if you're ever in a situation that isn't going to go away, well, you make the situation go away. But yes, Shakespeare was right. Discretion is the better part of valor. It's like my family knows if we're in a situation and all of a sudden I've read the signs, I know something's. It's just like we're leaving, and we leave. I've done that with my daughter in the grocery store. Now we're gone.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, I trust my warrior instincts, like I trust my artist instincts. I mean, that is the whispers, and I know what's not right. And for man or woman, if your instinct says something's not right here, I guarantee you it is not right there. And particularly, society trains. I mean, you have boys, so it's a different situation for you. But people with young girls, but even with your wife, society brings women up to be nice and pleasant, and on, not rock the boat. I shouldn't want to offend anyone. Well, I'm not like that. Women will get in an elevator with a strange guy. I won't.
Yeah.
The elevator opens and I'm like, get in. I'm not getting in with you, you tool. Like, are you crazy? Like, are you? I could go on and on, but there's a book that if women are watching and they're thinking about these things, there's a very hard read that everyone should read, and it's called The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker. And it's The Gift of Fear. It's a very, very difficult read because it's all true stories, and he goes around the world touring and lecturing about the gift of fear, and that again is listen to our instincts and how that will save your life.
Excellent. Well, hopefully someone will pick that up and have a look at that. It's such a powerful thing to get that level of confidence, to have that to know that you have the ability to probably protect yourself and hurt the other person, but you decide not to. And to have that and sort of to be able to comprehend that after, as you said, you've done years of training of that is quite a rare gift as well.
Well, and to know, to have a plan, first of all, because when shit gets real, as they say, it's just like day of the show. If a whole bunch of chaos happens, your brain goes. So you have the training, right? And you have the plan in there, and you've thought about the plan, right? You've maybe worked the plan and trained the plan, right? And then a system. It is actually a humane system. What I was taught, and the other people who train there know, and the few people around the world who train like that you can end a situation very quickly, and you can end it more humanely. That it could be a lot worse, right? You know how to do that.
Yeah.
Like let's get this over with as quickly as possible, and let's get back to normal. Let's get the authority here, and et cetera, right? Still, you can train all you want. It's still it's something that no human being should ever go through.
100%.
Crazy world.
So we've got, I think someone mentioned here that was asking about how you met your producer.
Well, who asked that?
I think it said Murray. I think, Murray wanted to know how we met Alessandro.
Okay, how we met our producer. Ali and I met on a website for professional singers. And I noted that he had Glenn Hughes listed in his resume. And so we had this Glenn Hughes connection because Glenn's voice is incredible, and I'm like, hey man, and so you're a producer in Italy. Now I've always known, again, the whispers, I've always known that I needed to work with a European producer. I knew that when I was a kid, and I went, Jesus, this guy's got a nice vibe, and Glenn and this and that, and I'm like, hey, we're just about to do our first album, like maybe you ever think of coming to Canada? And Canada, I've had this thing about Canada my whole life, and I'll send you a couple songs, and he dug the tunes, and next thing you know.
So he came to you.
Oh yeah, he comes to us.
Yeah, fantastic. Has he done that for all the albums?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
We recorded in our studio.
That's a really cool story. So wow, so he must be a bit of a fan too, and obviously he would be able to sort of grow with. He must almost be a part of the band, sort of remotely.
Very close to Ali. He has a great career as a songwriter and singer and a producer in Europe, and connecting to a lot of the older dinosaur rockers, and it's very much about modern rock. Melodic rock. So yeah, he's busy. But I presume he continues to work with us because he feels there's value here.
Absolutely. Salem, it's been absolutely fantastic. It's been so inspiring to hear your stories. And to everybody out there, in case we missed a couple of questions, I'm sure Salem can come back and read through them by the time we're done here, and hopefully reply to them in person. But wow, it's been some great stories. I really, really appreciate your time tonight. Or tomorrow, today. What's the time now? It would be about 9 o'clock.
Yeah, well, we've got more to talk about, so email me, man.
Absolutely. We'll stay in touch for sure. I really appreciate it. Right. Can I get you to introduce the final song here? We Gotta Change.
We Gotta Change is the final one. That was the first one.
So that's the one I'm going to put on now. So we'll finish off on that. So that's the first single from your upcoming album.
No, We Gotta Change was the first single from our second album. Single, first single from the upcoming album is Golden Souls.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So that is that is actually the one I'm gonna put on. So I can see I've just forgotten to change the title. I will just quickly do that.
No problem.
But yeah, tell us a story about that one, Golden Souls. So you briefly mentioned it earlier as well, that was it was about the whole pandemic thing. You wrote it a couple of years ago, but it was sort of active now. And
Yeah, I wrote it in 2018. It was inspired and moved forward from my patron Samael, and there are those of you who know what that means. In fact, he likes to hear me practice it. I've always felt that there are specific and special people, special souls, who are here to do great work. And in fact, I believe I'm related to at least one of them. And so I wrote about that. These souls are golden, and oftentimes it seems they're raised by people who are not walking a path of development. So the opening line for the song is "Golden souls raised by wolves."
Fantastic.
And yeah, and you know they're here to inspire. They're here to change things. So again, I knew that was going to be on the album. Again, Samael kept whispering in my ear, and definitely. I recorded it in front of his altar. Then when the pandemic hit, we went, wow, like Golden Souls is really, this is about now. So again, the whisper, boom. We didn't know it was going to be the first single. We didn't know what the first single was going to be. We went, okay, let's make it the first single. Let's do our quick raw video, and we did. And we animated it ourselves because it's pretty surreal right now.
It's a very unique situation. Hopefully, the only one we'll ever experience in our lifetime. But yeah, again, something good has come from it. Like, I've got to meet you. I've got to meet a lot of people, and a lot of other people have had, life-changing experiences. Hopefully for the better, but obviously also a lot of people have had for the worse. They've lost jobs and loved ones and stuff. But as long as if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. Yes. You move forward with a stronger mind.
Yeah, you grow within it.
Yeah. Thanks again, Salem. It's been an absolute pleasure. If anybody out there are wanting to check out Salem and One Soul Thrust, if you go back and watch the whole stream, you can obviously see I've had a lot of the little links to the various platforms. Otherwise, they're all in the show notes as well. So if anybody enjoyed the stream, please, anyone you think that might be interested in hearing our conversation, please share it, or you can tag your friends in it so they can have a listen to the wonderful stories. Thank you so much, Salem. I will put on Golden Souls now, and I wish you a beautiful evening ahead.
Yeah, blessings to you and your family, man.
Thanks a lot, Salem.
Okay,
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in or listening along to the show. If you like the show, please don't forget to leave a 5-star review and subscribe to my social channels. It doesn't cost you anything, but it greatly helps me to build my networks and my chances of getting sponsors to keep this show running. If you want to take it to the next level, please head over to patreon.com/Stephen Helhammer and become a patron by joining the exclusive community there. You can start from as little as $3 per month. And for just a little extra, you get access to some fantastic features, outtakes, behind the scenes stuff, and much, much more. That's less than the cost of a cup of coffee per month. And that way you can help me build better content. I can devote more time to find awesome guests and just generally keep everything flowing. If you want to be on the show or subscribe to my mailing list, send an email to steven@helhammer.com, and that is HELhammer.com. That way I can start sending you exclusive invites, random stuff, and messages that, who knows, you might enjoy. So that's it. Have a rocking day ahead, guys, and I will see you on the live stream or in your headphones very soon. Take it easy.